we are continuing with the A Christmas Carol. We kind of see what I think is the point that is trying to be made is not so much this dichotomy between like wealthy and poor, but this dichotomy of coldness, of sadness, and joy and happiness. That is actually kind of Dickens' point to this. It's like, are you going to be someone that's happy or sad? Type of idea there, because you see people, especially in what we are talking about today. We're going to get introduced to a Fezziwig, and Fezziwig is Fezzy
Fezziwig.
Not fuzzy. Is that what they say? Is that what they say in It's Christmas Carol?
Fezziwig.
Yeah,
Fezziwig.
Fezziwig. Lee had to be like that. That's so Fezziwig.
F-E-Z-Z-I.
So Fezziwig.
My brother-in-law.
Yeah. Fezziwig, is wealthy and he dances, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But like getting up to this point, we're introduced to Marley. We're introduced to all these people. Oh, we gotta borrow the vans.
I'll return him in fairly good shape.
Getting called to the principal's office.
Yeah. Ooh. That's why you really
Now we can talk about it.
Yeah. This isn't recorded. And so it's it's all this coldness. Like, remember, like his candle, his house is so big that the candle can't even light the house. And that's just this kind of cold emptiness that's going along. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is this chapter, it really surprised me. Like, the ghost is basically like a light, is like a candle.
Mm-hmm.
The candle. And remember his hat looks like a snuffer. And we're introducing this, and the thing that we'll get into as we go through here is that Scrooge starts having a good time. And that is very interesting to me, that he started. It's almost like this previous joy is coming about him now that wasn't there before. All right. So what's in the beginning of Stave 3? What are things that kind of stood out to you? Two. I'm sorry. I was reading the book and it said the first of the three spirits, and so I just read 3.
No.
Stave 2.
Fine, no problem.
Stave 2, the first spirit. This first spirit. And so I think it's interesting in the beginning. Again, I don't know what it is about Dickens describes Scrooge as he's endeavoring to pierce the darkness with his ferret eyes.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. Like, it's very descriptive. Like that's this kind of black eyes going on there. But and then we have the time, and we were talking about the time last week, but it's the heavy bell went from 6 to 7, 7 to 8, regularly up to 12, then stopped. And it was so help me know what time it is. It was past 2, then he went to bed, and the clock was wrong. And I said, we must have got into the works 12. And so he kind of went back.
Right.
Went back in time.
Yeah.
Back in time a little bit. Now,
although he wasn't sure whether it went back or forward, or
did he
slept 24 hours?
Yeah, did he sleep 24 hours? Is that what he's thinking, type of thing? Yeah, I've slept through the whole day, he said. And so then let's see. So then we get ding dong, quarter past, said Scrooge, counting ding dong, half past, ding dong, quarter to it, said Scrooge, ding dong, the hour itself, said Scrooge triumphantly, and nothing else. So is that now 1?
Yeah. That's how I took it.
That's what I.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, because they said
Melancholy one.
No.
yeah. A hollow, melancholy one.
Because that's when Marley appeared too at
And
one.
one.
Was
Yeah.
it a one
Yeah.
there too?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. That's cool.
I kind of took that to be like a child's anticipation, the waiting, the hearing the bells, the quarter hour, the half hour, like a
Yeah.
child's anticipation,
Yeah.
and Christmas bells.
Yeah. Yeah, you like
Oh,
the spells.
yeah.
And
I like the bells.
there's another
There's a lot
bell.
of bells in here.
There's another bell of another type at the end of this chapter. Like you caught it like that, but we'll hopefully we'll get to it today.
Yeah.
And so then it starts talking about the spirit, how it looks young. When I watched that Scrooge, the Disney Scrooge, but all the other ones always seem to really go like that, like a child. And that other one, the newer, the 2009 Disney Scrooge, it is a candle.
Mhm.
And it is like that, the spirit looks like a candle. And as I'm reading through this, that really seems to be more of the way than having it just be a child. And the way that the way they are presenting its face is like a candle flickering, and you can't really hold its face shape down. So it was like a child, but also like an old man, like also like it just kind of kept like and this is where something that I like to think about oftentimes. Our understanding of the faith adjusted in the Industrial Revolution, and one of the reasons why is we really started messing with digital things. Digital is there's no in between; it's either on or off, right? And in the Industrial Revolution, suddenly we had the ability to hit a button and it would stamp something and you had a product, right? And so how we look at light is different than how Dickens would have looked at light. You think about how, like it would have been all like lamps and candles, which is very unsteady. Very unsteady. We hit that button over there, and we have these like perfectly uniform lights, and it's just perfect right away, instantly. And I think, and when I was reading through this, I was like, this is something I have to translate. I have to translate because our relationship with light is completely different than his, and so this light is very almost unsteady, but hopeful. Like that's kind of how I was like, I'm having to translate how I understand how light works. Does that make sense? I don't know if it does or not. It wore a tunic of the purest white round its waist, lustrous belt sheen, which was beautiful. It held a branch of fresh green holly in its hand, which was a contradiction to the rest of the winter that was on it. So it's like it's living, like the newness is kind of coming in, almost like an Easter idea. Its dress was trimmed with these summer flowers. It's and then from its head, a bright, clear jet of light by which all this was visible, in which doubtless the occasion of its using in its duller moments a great extinguisher for a cap, which it now held under its arm. So like that's, lady?
The light of Christ.
The light of Christ. Yeah.
The light of the world. He's holding it.
Yeah.
Right now, Scrooge can't just extinguish it. He's kind of forcing Scrooge to see what he instinctively knew, but for years has put aside.
Yeah. And the extinguisher for a cap is really interesting to me. Like that's like I think I made the joke last week, but like we end up getting at the end of this chapter is like hide it under a bushel, like that's like I'm gonna let it shine. Do you know what we're talking about when we say stuff like that? There's like a children's song, like This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine,
I'm gonna let it shine.
And then you say one verse is, hide it under a bushel. No.
Yeah, yeah. It's like not gonna let Satan puff it out.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna let it shine. Like that's. But I think
You suckered me in again.
and so it's if you grew up in the church or spent time with kids in the church, you know that song, and so it's, and I just think the extinguisher is a cap, especially with Lee combining the idea of light of Christ to this. That it's almost like I don't know if this is valid or not, but like the cross is hanging out there too type of thing, like almost like an attempt, because we end up seeing at the end there's an attempt to snuff out the light by Scrooge,
Right.
like that, and that he really goes through a pattern of really accepting the light, and then as he goes farther, well, I guess closer and closer into his past, the old Scrooge starts coming out again, and he's like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it.
And he calls it a jet of light.
Yeah.
Which seems like a strong beam, which, like you said back then, would have been an unusual thing to see in the era where your head, but its body is like a candlelight flickering in and out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, like light of Christ, like that's the light.
The yes, it's not you wanted to say something.
Because we know how the story ends, I don't lose sight of how we characterize Scrooge. It's not, we don't get him wholly formed. We get the damaged product at the very beginning. What we don't understand of it is, why is he so damaged? And it's, as you say, he accepts the light, and then he remembers his own experience of accepting that light, perhaps.
Yeah.
And it was not a happy experience. So he himself is trying to go forward, and he falls back to what is comfortable to him. What's comfortable to him is his isolation, his solitude, his bitterness.
What his girlfriend was that? What's the joke?
Or fiance, because they had a contract. Yeah.
Says that like he's gone after a golden idol, which is bad. Like we're burying the lead here, but like that's, but it's I think it's all related. Like it's all this fascinating talk in this chapter, kind of going forward to that, and then we kind of talked about this last week, but talking about that candle even more was, it says like, now with 20 legs, now a pair of legs without a head, now the head without a body. It sounds like a candle, but which is dissolving parts, no outlining would be visible, and the dense gloom was melted away. Like that, it just sounds like in Isaiah and all these places where it's trying to describe like these cherubim and seraphim and angels and all this glory, and it just can't, like you're just describing, it's almost like nonsense going out into the world, like that's of just this glory of indescribable. Lee, you look like you want to say something.
If you go down a few lines to where Scrooge could not have told anybody why, if anybody could have asked him, but he had a special desire to see the spirit in his cap and begged him to be covered. What exclaimed the ghost? Would you so soon put out with worldly hands the light I give?
Yeah.
Crucifixion.
That's the this little light of mine. Yeah. So it's like he wanted to cover the light. He's like, yeah, you want to snuff it out. Yeah, it's I have it underlined what it says after that. Is it not enough that you are one of those whose passions made this cap and forced me through whole trains of years to wear it low upon my brow? Like you've chosen the darkness. You've chosen the darkness in your life. Like that's and so what I wrote here is Scrooge's desire to see this cap on his head is kind of a funny thing, but it's funny wrapped up in all of this seriousness. Like that's what I think is so fascinating about this work is that Scrooge says things in a funny way a lot of times, or thinks things in a funny way. And so the spirit starts talking about your welfare, and Scrooge expressed himself much obliged, but could not help thinking that the night of unbroken rest would have been more conductive in the end. The unbroken rest, comment there, really seems like to kind of like this whole finding rest. My yoke is easy and my burden is light type of idea here. And there's like this double entendre going on. Yes. All right. So then kind of going through there and it's kind of a funny moment when he's like, listen, I'm just a mortal. And he takes his hand and they go and they take off into the skies. Right. And he's like, okay. And this was funny to me. It's like, he says, so after that, it's like, your lip is trembling, said the ghost. And what is that on your cheek? And Scrooge muttered with an unusual catching in his voice that it was a pimple and begged the ghost to lead him where he would. What a weird phrasing of like he's talking about pimples on them. But is this leading us into where Scrooge is remembering his youth?
Yes.
Like that's it. It's starting to, like his memories are going to his past now.
And he still has a heart. That's the first time that we've seen any emotion from him. And he's still, again, denying it's a pimple. A pimple is something you want to get rid of. You don't want it.
Yeah.
And he's feeling it, but again, he's still fighting it. But now we know he has a heart.
Yeah. It's still in there. And you see that all throughout here. So like immediately we get into like where he starts recognizing every goat and post and tree, like he's remembering all this stuff. He sees the kids riding the ponies in and all the boys were in great spirits and shouted at one another. And you see the point of the book there again, is that these boys are happy.
He was the outcast, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, you think he's gonna oh, my buddy.
Yeah, let's go ride with him, but.
Yeah.
He's not.
So you start having sympathy for him.
And again, through no fault of his own.
Yeah.
Through no fault of his own is Scrooge.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true, too. Yeah.
He is the product of sadness and emptiness.
Yeah. And so it says that there's one lonely boy they're reading near a feeble fire, and Scrooge sat upon the form and wept to see the poor forgotten self as it used to be. That's that loneliness there. And the note I wrote here is that he's Tiny Tim. Like I was like that's and is I don't know if that's valid or not.
Give us more.
So that's that it's Scrooge. There's all these people because we get up later in this chapter, and Scrooge is like there was someone that was poor at my door. I kind of wish I could have done something now.
Oh, the caroler.
Yeah, the caroler.
Threw a ruler at or something.
Yeah. And he's like, I wish I could have done something there. But is this seeing himself in this loneliness is going to develop how he sees Tiny Tim at the end? Is that the darkness that comes onto Scrooge, just as you were saying, it was thrust upon him, does he see that same thing? He's like, I can actually make this better. I don't know.
Yeah, but Tiny Tim is a happy child, even though he's crippled.
Yeah.
And Scrooge was not a happy child.
Well, I think he had like moments of happiness. I think but he's alone in darkness here, but people come and get him. Like I think he's happy during Fuzzy Wedding.
Yes. Well, and yeah, so his friends are going home for the holiday or whatever.
Yeah,
And
yes, no
no
homes.
one asked him to go with them.
Yeah, no one asked him to live.
And he's not welcome at this point. Well, First Street, he's not welcome to go
Yeah.
home until his sister comes and says different.
Yeah. So who is this first person that comes here? Like it's a Ali Baba.
Yeah.
Well, he's reading a book. He's reading books,
Mm-hmm.
and the characters in the books are his friends.
Okay.
Yes.
That's who he.
Alibaba and the 40.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The Sultan's Crew. Yeah.
Notice the 40 there.
Yeah. All those things. Yeah. No, I see it.
And there's another 40 coming too.
Yeah. And but what's interesting is Scrooge is, I don't know, he's expressing like this kind of almost joy as he's watching,
Yeah.
as he's seeing this. This is the old Scrooge.
A lot of exclamation points. Like that. Yeah. like you
These
said.
were the only friends I had back in that day.
Yeah.
But he had joy in that reading too.
Yeah.
Yet not only they were his friends, he enjoyed their adventures, the different things they did while he was stuck. It was his getaway. He would go into those books. He would live those books.
Yeah.
He was stuck alone.
Yeah, with Robinson Crusoe and all these people. And he also doesn't do any of that now. He's still in the same state where he's alone on Christmas, but he would rather work than enjoy the books now. So
Just enjoying another set of books.
Yeah.
just enjoying another set of books.
That's right. It's another set of inanimate books.
Yeah. Let's see. So why did I underline this? I also wrote reject on it. So the spirit asked, "What's the matter?" And nothing, said Scrooge. Nothing. There was a boy singing a Christmas carol. Oh, that's that one.
Yeah,
At my
that was the
door.
last one.
I should like to have given him something. That's all. And like, are we seeing the humanity peek through in some ways? Like that's, and I think that's kind of what this whole chapter is that this humanity is peeking through. And so we're going down, and then we go to another year, right? Is this another year?
Yeah.
Another Christmas.
Another Christmas.
Yeah.
And someone does bring him home, right? His sister, who is Fan, who is younger, and so she brings him in. And again, I wrote my notes is like, here's the point again, is that and you're to be a man, said a child, opening her eyes, and are never to come back here. But first, we're to be together all Christmas long and have the merriest time in all the world. Like that's, that reiterating the point that's going in there. What is there anything that I'm missing in that fan dialogue?
No, but I think the comment about you're to be a man means he's about to be apprenticed to Fezziwig.
Yeah.
He's leaving school and about to be apprenticed. That's why they only have the one Christmas together, is he gets apprenticed now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I thought it was significant that she spoke of the father who has now become more kind,
Yes.
which to me kind of signified that, he put him in the boarding school to get rid of him.
Yeah.
And, and if home's like heaven, and it wasn't like heaven, that could account for how he started to withdraw from the faith.
Yeah. and just withdraw from everything.
Yeah.
The conversation after fan here with the ghost. It's like always a delicate creature whom a breath might have withered, said the ghost, but she had a large heart. And, so she had, cried Scrooge. You're right. It's like we'll keep on going. So she died a woman, said the ghost, and had, as I think, children, one child, said Scrooge. It's like your nephew.
Mm-hmm.
The nephew we already brought. It's like filled with joy and happiness. And
From his mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought that interaction was interesting, that the ghost here is bringing joy, but also touching the sadness too in Scrooge. Of losing his sister there. So far, this and the nephew are really the only people we've seen really engage him. And he's pushing them away. And so it's like this.
He pushed the gentleman who came to try to, or two gentlemen that came to try to get him to contribute to the Christmas of others also.
Oh, yeah. And
We'll he'll get back at.
Yeah. And, let's see here.
And they were in the city.
Yeah, then they're in their city, and they're like, oh yeah, I apprenticed here. Oh, it's old Fezziwig. Bless his heart. And in this, as I was reading this here, there's just so much joy written on the page. Like it's a delight to read. It's kind of in the middle of the paragraph here, but the lamps were trimmed, fuel was heaped upon the fire, the warehouse was snug and warm and dry and bright, in a bright ballroom, as you would desire to see upon a winter's night. The exact opposite of everything else that Scrooge has been in, that we've been introduced so far. All like antonyms to everything that's been described.
And then you wonder why Scrooge turned out, after this example, the way he did.
Yeah. Like, did you have any more to say than that?
No.
Like that's it. But like a big, it's like just a massive party filled with dancing. The part that I really enjoyed was how it described Fezziwig's dancing. And like that's, but they had been twice as many. 4 times old Fezziwig would have been a match for them, and so would Miss Fezziwig. As for her, she was worthy to be his partner in every sense of the term. If that's not high praise, tell me higher, and I'll use it. This is the big part. A positive light appeared to issue from Fezziwig's calves. As he's like, that's what, like, especially with this ghost that is a light.
Yeah.
And we're talking about Fezziwig's calves, like causing light coming from them. Like what an image, and I think it just continues with that kind of just that message of joy coming through there. Was there anything else there?
No, but I think you made a point earlier that we need to I want to touch on a little bit.
Yeah.
The ghost keeps taking him to the past where there was darkness, and then balancing that with something that was joyful.
Yeah.
So that he sees that at one point in his life there was joy in sadness. And I think that's important because they're trying to accentuate the joy that was there at some point so that he can understand that he's capable of that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if he thinks I'm just stuck this way, this is who I am, he isn't. And the ghost is working hard to make him understand that you weren't this way. You were capable of being more.
Yeah. And he just keeps going down that other path because it's, and I think you were out there, and everyone disagrees with me in this fact, but I'm going to say it again. Like, I think
You're hoping I'm going to agree?
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. I'm still going to say it.
No,
I think there is a Tiny Tim reference going on to where, with him seeing that he's alone. Like in there when he's reading the books and all of that stuff. Tiny Tim isn't, but Tiny Tim's a stand-in for the people that all of Marley's friends that just want to help the poor out. I see Tiny Tim's kind of a stand-in for that, but I don't know.
I don't think Marty's friends wanted to help the poor.
It says they did.
Marley's friends?
Yeah, like all of his, the ghosts that they wanted to be able to help.
As they went along.
Yeah,
After the fact.
Yeah.
after the fact. They want to, but they can't.
Because neither Marley or Scrooge had any friends.
No,
That's why it's.
that's what I mean by that. Like the ghosts that were with.
I can't buy that being Tiny Tim, because Tiny Tim was loved. He was cared for. And Scrooge, apparently, until he was apprenticed to Fezziwig, was not.
Yeah, but we're getting earlier on, but he is shown his death.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's kind of a like I don't know. I could be completely wrong on it. And that's fine. And so I'm just throwing out ideas, showing you my lack of reading comprehension. So it's I really thought this paragraph was interesting. Is during the whole of this time, as Scrooge is watching all of this, Scrooge had acted like a man out of his wits, his heart and soul in the scene with his former self. He corroborated everything, remembering everything, enjoyed everything, and underwent the strangest agitation. Like that's like he's enjoying himself.
Yeah.
Like that's
He's remembering the joy that he had.
yeah.
He does that again later.
Yeah. And that's great. And the ghost, let's see. Let's just continue reading. It was not until now, when the bright faces of his former self and Dick were turned from them, that he remembered the ghost and became conscious of that. And became conscious that it was looking full upon him, while the light upon its head burnt very clear.
Yeah.
So suddenly he was fully immersed, and then realized that light, and that's why I talked about that light earlier, is that we're so used to uniform light, and that suddenly the candle there, this ghost is burning bright on fascinating stuff.
Yeah, you would first picture a spotlight shining off of the head of this ghost.
Yeah.
But then you realize later on that it's not. That's kind of a flickering light.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So said the ghost, a small matter to make these silly folks full of gratitude.
Yeah.
That's I wrote the word kingdom next to it, the kingdom of God idea going on there. It's small, and Scrooge's small. What do you mean? They're pouring out their hearts here.
And then he goes on, it didn't cost much money. The spirit said, 4 or 5 pounds.
Yeah.
And then Scrooge's speech after that, speaking as his former, not his latter self, so how he felt then, that,
that's good.
His Fezziwig had the power to make him happy or sad, blah, blah, all these contrasts, and he made them happy, and that's worth a great fortune.
Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't have to spend a lot of money to do it.
It's just his attitude, his looks, his praise and stuff. Yeah.
And I do love how pretty much every movie I can remember has it's the end of the workday, and Fezziwig's it's Christmas, and that was really shows in that paragraph.
Yeah.
It was this attitude of here we are, this is what we're doing, type of fun stuff.
Instead of in the beginning of the book saying, time to put up the shutters, go home.
Oh yeah.
Have to have tomorrow off?
Yeah.
Yeah. To pick a man's pocket, right? That's and here's Fezziwig. It's and so they're it's not that much to do this.
Yeah.
And it's good. And that reminds me of when I used to work like a little factory job thing that I had for a while, and when I was young and didn't really know what things cost and all that stuff, I was like, man, this is a huge party that they're throwing. And I look back now and I'm like, the overall cost even for that day, paying for all these people and stuff like that. And yeah, we weren't working, but it really did so much for morale than that.
Yeah.
And that's, you just had to look at all of that, and it's so much. Say happiness he gives is quite as great as if it cost a fortune. It's like that. It didn't really cost him that much, but it was worth so much. You then have, let's see, this next little matter. Why? Oh, okay. So right after this, we go back to where he's older again now. A man in the prime of his life. His face had not the harsh or the rigid lines of later years.
Mm-hmm.
That you got to wear as signs of care. Like that's, and like you're seeing like the darkness here, like creep in again, right? And there's this girl in a morning dress, and she's crying. All alone, and in whose eyes were tears which sparkled in the light that shone out of the ghost of Christmas past. What an interesting descriptor. Like that's that. It's just I'm having a hard time putting together the words to describe like just what that means. What that, just a good quote.
That she had the light in her.
And it's showing forth. It's also so bittersweet because you can see the light in the tears.
Yes.
Because we're transitioning to where Scrooge is pushing it away, pushing away the light. And so the light is evident in the tears there. And it matters little. Like that's when she says it matters little. There's this little, like Ed Bach has now been fully trained and immersed. And like as soon as something sounds familiar, like that's I keep hearing the word little.
Yeah.
And like as I think of the kingdom of God every time, and it's like it matters little that she said softly, to you very little, another idol has replaced me. And if it can cheer and comfort you in time to come, as I would have tried to do, I have no just cause to grieve. What idol has displaced you?
The golden calf.
Yeah. The golden chains. The gold, all those boxes that were chained to Marley that Scrooge had so much more time to build than Marley did. Like that's like, I mean, just that the fact that it says the golden one is so interesting. With comparing it to the golden calf in Egypt, well, outside of Egypt.
Yeah, but then, he made a comment about, what's so wrong with the pursuit of wealth? And then her retort is amazing. You fear the world too much, she answered gently. All your hopes have merged into the hope of being beyond the chance of its sort of reproach. You have seen your nobler aspirations fall off one by one until master passion, gain, engrosses you. And I think that's really telling about how he switched. He's focused now on, I want money so that nothing can ever stop me, never bother me again. But he's excluding what really matters.
Yeah, like that's, like he's just allowing the darkness to just fully embody himself.
And that she names it fear, your fear of the world. It's not just for gain. He's just afraid that he won't have anything if he gives it away.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of like, again, like as a Christian, we can keep giving because we know we have enough in Christ. And but it's just, it's kind of to me, kind of summing that up.
Circles, at least for me, it circles me back to Fezziwig.
Yeah.
He achieved in his life what Scrooge wanted.
Mm.
He had amassed a king's fortune, and he used it in a way that brought happiness to everyone.
Yeah.
Fezziwig lived life,
Mm-hmm.
and he enjoyed, he valued life and what he could do to make other people's lives rich. Whereas Scrooge is like Marley before him. It's simply accumulation in anticipation of the worst.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think her comment about the fear of the world is too much. I think he fears the happiness in a sense too. He's afraid to let the happiness in because that's the part of the world that isn't profitable in the sense of money. It profits you in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't profit in money. I don't have time for that. He's afraid to give up time for enjoyment. You know, that's just my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think that's good. I think that you fear the world too much that is a clarifying statement for everything we've seen from Scrooge already so far. You know, he's afraid to give to the poor. You know, he's afraid to that's because it's just all this. I think you the scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
There's not enough out there. There's not enough.
Well, and I think back then that poverty was brutal. I mean, there was not many social programs other than the poorhouses, the treadmill.
The treadmill.
So to be
is that not still running?
Yeah, but to be poor was a frightening thing. But then you contrast that with
Fezziwig.
well, and Bob Cratchit.
Yes.
They're poor. You know,
Yeah.
they don't have
And they're
much,
happy.
and they're happy.
As soon as Bob gets away from Scrooge, he's sledding down with the
Yeah.
boys.
Yeah.
You know,
And
that's.
they're going to have that Christmas goose. And
Yeah.
it's enough for everybody. The table is full.
Eventually, the pudding is the same way.
Yeah.
And I like it. It's our contract. She goes on later and she says, our contract isn't old when it was made when we were both poor and content to be so.
Mm-hmm.
Until in good season, we could improve our worldly fortune and patient industry. You are changed. You are changed. When it was made, you were another man. She's nailed it. I mean, she's seeing what's happened. And she got out in time. Nice.
Yeah. And you wonder.
But she fares well.
Yes, she does.
Yes. He says I was a boy. So was he at Fezziwig's when they fell in love and made their contract? Where he had that
Sounds good,
example of someone
Coming right
joyful. Yeah.
Year after year, Cratchit was preparing him for this fateful night. Every Christmas, Cratchit would behave this way to show him what life was like, despite the darkness, despite the chill. And it took this fateful night for him to understand what Cratchit is about.
Mm-hmm.
And the nephew
And then
Yeah.
who comes every year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just like Santa Claus.
Just like I thought it was interesting in the midst of her of the fiance talking about I don't know the regrets of it all, but he's like, can't even I believe that you would choose a dowerless girl. You know, it's like of not having any means, not would you do that today type of thing. And for that, it screamed that idol language again. Like everything is a goal now. Like nothing can just be happy and be what it is. And I remember that. I'm sitting there trying to find it now so I can underline it. What you just read, Vance.
It's just the page before it's like 4 paragraphs up from where, or something. I don't know where I am.
Yeah, I'll find it again when I read it. That's a good, I'm surprised I didn't.
It's got a couple of pages in this book.
Yeah.
It's after he talks about what idol has displaced you, and she says a golden one that's even handed home.
Yeah.
And then he says, you fear the world too much.
Okay, yeah. Okay, good. Okay.
Well, and then after that comes, our contract is an old one. It was made when we were both poor and content.
Yeah, there it is. There it is.
Yeah,
That's-
I like that.
That's good. There's so much good right here.
Mhm.
And then this chapter, every time, as I was having a hard time not just underlining the whole chapter, I had to be like, hold back. You won't be able to find anything. You just have to do it.
I'm going to say something that's really relevant. When I read this clause, it was interesting because I've known over the years, Betsy worked in the medical field for a number of years when we were first married, and there were a lot of young nurses who would marry young doctors during their residencies. And then as soon as he got his practice going and was wealthy, all of a sudden they were divorced because he wanted to marry somebody else, younger, more attractive. But when they first married, the nurse was putting him through med school at some level. And it just was, it's very interesting seeing how changes happen when people grow and become more enamored with what the goal is. That struck me because I know somebody who fell in that category, and it was like, she was devastated that the guy just went another direction. I mean, they were friends, and then they weren't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Suddenly the goal changed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And this stuff is, it's common. It's common. No, I think that, I don't think that was off topic at all. Let's see here. So, like, getting into like the release here, like, I've never sought a release, that whole thing. Let's see.
And then he wants to leave, and the spirit makes him stay. No. And turns him around, and then he sees what happens to the girl, the young brood.
He just doesn't want to face it.
No. He sees himself and what he did wrong and what could have been, and then he doesn't want to see anymore. I see anymore. No, you've got more to see.
Right before all that, her blessing to him, really hit me hard when I was reading it. When she said, "May you be happy in the life that you've chosen," and you get that resonant for the whole book of just happiness. Happiness. May you be happy in this, even though he's not. It's almost like it's almost like the tear, and the light going there. And so he holds it, and like the happiness is fading, and he looks out there, and so then we're introduced to the other Belle. I don't know if this has, because I didn't know if you were going to do anything with that, but why did I underline all this?
That's the life he could have had.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
life he could have had.
And he's seeing that, well, he was already upset before they got to that point, but now he saw the life he could have had, the children he could have had, the love he could have had, the respect he could have had.
The children he could have had.
His money.
I thought that's her married to somebody else.
It
Yeah,
is,
it
it
is.
is.
Yeah,
She
it
could have
is.
been married to somebody else.
Yeah.
Because she does say in the end of her thing, he says, don't you think I would still choose you? And she said, if you did, then repentance and regret would follow. You'd be because you wouldn't be rich. That's your whole thing is gain.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
she said he wouldn't have been happy with her because he couldn't go after his gain like he wanted.
Yeah.
And then he sees her happy with someone who appreciates her.
Mm-hmm. And how does he respond to that? Like is this where he starts going, Spirit said, Scrooge, in a broken voice, remove me from this place.
Yeah.
I told you these were shadows of things that have not been, said the ghost, that they are what they are. Do not blame me. Remove me, Scrooge exclaimed. I cannot bear it. He turned upon the ghost, and seeing that it looked upon him with a face in which, in some strange way, there were fragments of all the faces that had shown him, he wrestled with it. Like,
Well, right before that,
yeah,
Belle's husband mentions that he walked past
Yeah.
Scrooge's office.
yeah,
Right before that, he says that, oh yeah, I saw an old friend of yours, and then he says, his partner lies upon the point of death, I hear, and there he sat, alone, quite alone in the world, I do believe.
yeah,
And then that's when Scrooge is like, get me out of here.
yeah. I don't need this anymore.
It's a Scrooge in a broken voice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, you could see he's crackling. You tore him, that one. You cut him deep.
yeah, yeah. Like it's like that, especially when the daughter is like, you could have called her daughter, you could have had all this promise, like that's, but no,
You could have been that husband that walked in the door and had people
Yeah.
rushing at you and
yeah.
love you and
Mm-hmm.
however.
But instead he chose bitterness.
Yes.
And you see, kind of goes back. So like, leave me, take me back, haunt me no longer in the struggle. It can be called a struggle in which the ghost, with no visible resistance on its own part, was undisturbed by any effort of its adversary. Scrooge observed that the light was burning high and bright and dimly connecting that with its influence over him. He seized the extinguisher cap and by a sudden action pressed it down upon its head. And the spirit dropped beneath it so that the extinguisher covered its whole form. But through though Scrooge pressed it down with all of his force, he could not hide the light which streamed from underneath it in an unbroken flood upon the ground. Like that, yeah, and that's original
Oh, yeah.
artwork from the original book. The original book had artwork in it. And so that's but the fact that he couldn't stand the light anymore and he tries to extinguish it is,
But he can't fully extinguish it.
No, you can't hide
Yeah.
it.
The same,
Right.
same, we can't
Unbroken
extinguish the light of Christ.
yeah.
Mhm.
Like he can't stop the light from going out. And that's kind of when it's so interesting how it ends like that's, and just his exhaustion overcame him, and
I'm impressed on the timing.
like that's, you should be. I'm a professional.
Well, I think you said last week your goal was to get through 2 and 3,
He wasn't anticipating I'd be back this week.
No, I have resigned during this last week. I have resigned the fact that this is just going to take a little longer. than I was anticipating.
yeah, I think you're just getting even, because this week I read 2 and 3 to be sure I was ready.
I read 2, 3, and 4.
I would say so he goes to sleep. So then I would be ready to do 2 staves next time we get together. I don't know if that will happen or not, but I would be ready. And so but this is halfway through the book though. Yeah. It is. It is. And so it's halfway through the book. So we've already done half of it. That's why I'm like, you may want to be ready just to do 2. But I'm enjoying this. It's good stuff. Let's see. So we're not going to meet network next week. Next week is Thanksgiving. I am not going to be here. I do not expect any of you to be here either. Like that's
You're going to be thankful?
I will be thankful. I will be thankful. I will be out of county. Like this?
So you're changing the song to Go Ye Thankful.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, yeah. And so all those things. So, but all right. Well, we'll say goodbye to all the people streaming on YouTube. Thanks for watching the recording, everybody.
Oh, wow.
Bye.
And then.